Yeah. Have any of them ever been captured on camera, either photo or film?
Mm. There are actually a handful of photographs. Probably the most famous one was took in the mid-1960s, late 1960s, by two researchers, Tim Beckley and Jim Moseley. Jim died a few years ago, but Tim is still in the UFO field, and he's still happy to talk about this encounter. It goes back to Jersey City in the United States, and one particular guy and his wife who lived in Jersey City at that time were Jack and Mary Robinson, and they were sort of the go-to guys in ufology in Jersey City back in the 60s. You know, they ran a UFO group and they were plugged in with everybody. And Jim Moseley and Tim Beckley were friends of the Robinsons. And one morning, after Jack had gone to work, Mary phoned Tim Beckley and said, "You know those M.I.B that you investigate? Well, for the last few days, there's been one looking over the road from the opposite side of the road to our apartment, just staring at my apartment, and he's clearly looking at me." And now you don't really get repeat cases like this, which, you know, Mary had seen this M.I.B for sort of 2 or 3 days. So Tim phoned Jim and said, "Why don't we get out there tomorrow morning at the same time that Mary said she's been seeing him, and let's try to see if we can get a picture." So they went out there, Jersey City, the next morning about 8 a.m., rush hour time. But they managed to slow the car down outside of Mary's apartment, and sure enough, that guy was there. And they managed to get one picture because it was just rush hour traffic. And so, you know, they couldn't stop the car. So they managed to get this one picture, which you can find online, and it's not like a hidden picture or anything like that. And in the picture, he kind of looks almost zombified. He's got like a black fedora, and if you blow up the picture and you look at the glasses that he's wearing, they do look more like ski goggles than sunglasses. They sort of bulge in, and he's clearly got like a black suit, a long black trench coat, and it looks like black gloves as well. And he's standing in the recesses of this doorway, and he does have this sort of almost detached zombie-like stance, just standing there. And so that was certainly one of the most intriguing ones from the 60s. In terms of modern times, not so much a photograph but film footage. You can find online a very interesting piece of footage where these two M.I.B walk into the lobby of a hotel, and the footage actually was taken in the hotel. You know, it wasn't a hoax by the hotel staff or anything like that. Now, whether or not the hotel staff themselves were hoaxed or this was a real case, that's where people have, you know, whether they're believers or skeptics, fall into one camp or the other. But it was not anything hoaxed by the hotel people themselves. But if you watch the footage, everything about them is strange. You know, their hats are slightly bit bigger than regular fedoras, but they're dressed in black. And, you know, the two of them together, you could understand why people would see them and sort of make a second look, because you would imagine in one sense the M.I.B would want to stay covert and hidden, but everything about them jumps out. And that's why that film footage became so famous, because even the staff were like, well, you know, we've got to show this to somebody. Just so weird. So there aren't that many photographs and film footage. In fact, that's the only actual film footage that I know of that is, you know, genuine, or I believe it to be genuine. There are a couple more photographs, but they, you know, they're sort of just pictures of a guy in a black suit, which might just be a guy in a black suit, you know. But the Tim Beckley, Jim Moseley photograph outside Mary Robinson's apartment, that is, for me, is a genuinely sort of weird and eerie picture if you take a look at it.
Yeah. A colleague of ours, Debbie Stoner, recently told me in an interview that she actually recounted it on the interview of an incident with the men in black that actually took place in the daytime at a supermarket. and involving, I think it was a baby. I'm just trying to recall it, but so they can appear in the daytime.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that they've been seen during the day, but there's also no doubt that the vast majority of the reports do occur late at night. Now, some of these daytime ones are really creepy because, as you said, people have seen them in stores and things like this, which sounds really weird. But in many cases, it seems to be that they're following either the UFO researcher or the abductee or the contactee. They're making it clear that, I guess, that telling the witnesses or the relevant person that, hey, we can follow you any time of day or night, and we know where you go, where you go, stores you go to, all this kind of thing. So I think the issue of, for example, like witnesses being in a store and then suddenly they look to the right or the left and there's a woman in black or a man in black staring at them. I think it's done very much to sort of psychologically destabilize the relevant person who has been targeted. And so, when you've got cases like this where, the M.I.B are sort of walking around the local Walmart or whatever, it does sound extremely bizarre. But for the witnesses who've had these encounters, it's terrifying. The idea that these things or creatures, whatever you want to call them, are literally following people day and night. But as I said, the two big differences are sometimes the surveillance and the following occurs during the day, but the threat occurs at night. So there are these sort of subtle different aspects which you can put together in so many different cases, but they are sort of part and parcel of the same thing.